President of the Calgary Leadership Forum.
So ladies and gentlemen, to hear from our candidates, I will not be doing an introduction. Let me just tell you the order. We'll lead off with Gordon Dirks as the first speaker, followed by Greg Clark, number 2, followed by John Fletcher, number 3, followed by Stephanie McLean, number 4, and followed by Susan Wright, number 5. I would ask that when I call a name that you give them a warm, enthusiastic applause, because I honor anybody who's really to step up and commit their lives and step into the public arena and offer themselves in public office. So, our first speaker, ladies and gentlemen, thank you. Our first speaker. Would you please welcome Stephanie McLean? You know, we're going to do that all over again. Stephanie, would you like to stay there or would you like to come in here? It's your choice. Oh, Gordon's up first. My apologies, Gordon. Yes. You can say, I got it, thank you.
There we go. We should go. Ready to go.
Well, thank you everyone for taking time out of your busy schedules to be here this evening and joining together in this wonderful facility. I've been listening to your issues and concerns as I've been knocking on doors, and one major issue clearly is last year's flood. Lives, families, homes, businesses were devastated. People have waited too long for action after the flood, and that's why in the first 6 days after our swearing-in, Premier Jim Prentice and his new cabinet acted, at my recommendation, we tripled the number of staff to process the DRP applications. We're moving forward with flood mitigation upstream on the Elbow, and we'll continue to assess the McLean Creek and the Calgary Tunnel options, as well as negotiating a long-term agreement with TransAlta on water levels in the Ghost Reservoir. We listened, we heard, and we acted, and that's what leadership does. I'm running to be your Calgary MLA because I want to continue to champion the interests of Calgary Elbow and be the MLA you deserve. An MLA who is present, accessible, who listens, and who acts with leadership on your behalf. Our new Prentice government is guided by respect for Albertans, for Alberta tax dollars, and Albertans' priorities. With this in mind, our new government will invest in public education, strengthen communities, focus on fiscal responsibility, restore public trust in government, and maximize our natural resources, and establish Alberta as an environmental leader. So let me speak briefly to these 5 points. Public education is in my bloodstream, and I believe every Alberta child should have access to the highest quality public education, and each of our graduates should have access to world-class colleges and universities right here in Alberta. As your education minister, I'm already beginning to revisit curriculum changes to ensure that Alberta's schools deliver the basics and incorporate 21st century competencies, innovation, communication, critical thinking, in keeping with that great document and the recommendations of inspiring education. And our students deserve the best in learning environments. Today we announced a massive increase in funding to build 55 more new schools. That's in addition to the 50 that are already in process, as well as injecting an additional $100 million more to double budgets for every school board in the province to fast-track maintenance and renewal of existing schools. In recent days, I've reviewed the plans for the Elbow School, and as your MLA, I can tell you I'm committed to rebuilding that school for students here in Calgary Elbow. To strengthen communities, I'm working with cabinet colleagues to ensure all Albertans have access to quality health care. Frontline providers do a great job, and I know that from personal experience, but we need better outcomes from the system overall. We must support our seniors and wherever possible enable them to remain independent in their communities. And a priority of mine will be to advocate for a major program of construction of long-term care beds. I believe strongly in balancing and protecting the rights of all Albertans, and in the work of the Human Rights Commission to strengthen our communities by fostering equality and reducing discrimination. On the fiscal front, while we're building infrastructure that Albertans desperately need, we also need to spend within our means. We will not run deficits to finance the basic operations of government. We will save for the future. We will not have a sales tax. Under Jim Prentice's leadership, we are restoring public trust, putting an end to entitlement, The Accountability Act, to be introduced this fall, includes clear guidelines regarding conflicts of interest for all political staff and senior civil servants. We've ended the practice of sole source contracts and put an end to sweetheart government contracts for political staff. And when it comes to political appointments, qualifications and merit must win the day, not connections. We must sustain and grow a vibrant energy economy, the economic engine of our province and country. The Prentice government will take action to increase market access and become a global leader at the same time in environmental performance. In closing, Premier Prentice is the leader to deliver a stronger future for Alberta. I believe in the value and ethic of public service. Calgary Alberta needs an MLA who will advocate for everyone and provide hope, inspiration, and action. And with a seat at the cabinet table and on Treasury Board, I pledge to be that MLA for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gordon Dirks, number 1, Progressive Conservative. Candidate number 2, Greg Clark, the Alberta Party.
Thank you, Brian, and thank you to the Calgary Leadership Forum. Thank you to my fellow candidates for stepping up and participating in democracy. And thank you very much to all of you for coming out. It shows that you have an appreciation for the democratic process, but also that you care about Alberta and may not be as interested in the Calgary Flames as some of us. I also care greatly about Alberta. I love this province. I'm very lucky to have been born and raised here in Calgary, Alberta, and I've lived pretty much my entire life here. Alberta is a great place to live for many reasons. On one hand, we look out for one another. Albertans look out for our neighbors. We care for each other. And there was no better example of that than the response from our communities beyond the flood area to help us out when we were flooded last spring in the most devastating natural disaster in Canadian history. But Alberta is also a place of great innovation and entrepreneurship. There's really nothing we can't do in Alberta if we set our mind to it. I myself am an entrepreneur. I created a management consulting company doing knowledge management and information management in oil and gas. To translate, that's one of those 21st century knowledge economy type businesses that creates jobs that really didn't exist 15 years ago. It also gave me great insight into the oil and gas industry, having worked directly now within oil and gas for about 15 years. Not working just for one company, but working for dozens. Understanding the strengths, the opportunities, the challenges, and many of the good things that go on in our oil and gas industry, I think gives me a great background to be your MLA here in Calgary, Alberta. I gave up that company about a year ago to go into politics full-time when I became the leader of the Alberta Party. And I haven't drawn a salary in more than a year, because I believe politics must be about public service, not self-interest. My family, my wife is a palliative care physician at Foothills Hospital. I have daughters in grade 2 at William Reid Elementary, and a daughter in grade 5 just down the street here at Elboya. I'm born and raised in Calgary, Alberta, but it's a constituency in a province where we're very fortunate to have people choose to come and be part of that entrepreneurial spirit, part of that can-do feeling that makes Alberta such a great place. The issues that I'm hearing from my neighbors in Calgary, Alberta, and when I go knock on doors here during the campaign, very much our education. We must build our education system as a whole. Yes, we need to build new schools, but we must commit to funding inner-city schools. Our inner-city schools are overcrowded to the point where William Reid replaced the library this year with 2 classrooms because the school is so far over capacity. There are 34 5-year-olds in 1 classroom at William Reid this year. That's not acceptable to me. It's not acceptable to the parents at William Reid. It's not acceptable, I think, to any of our community. It's simply not good enough, and it's the result of 10 or more years of PC government underfunding and mismanagement of our education system. In healthcare, Jess tells me about the people lining the hallways at the Foothills Hospital. We hear about crisis in the emergency room at the Rocky View Hospital. We hear about the crisis in long-term care, the lack of availability of home care to keep people in their homes as long as possible. Our seniors deserve much better than this. It's the result of many, many years of underfunding and mismanagement and simply not building the long-term care beds that we need in this province. My family and I were hit by the flood last year, and it was a devastating experience. But the feeling I got from that was gratitude, which may surprise some of you. Gratitude for the help that we got from our neighbors and communities. I co-founded the Calgary River Communities Action Group in response to the flood and have a track record of standing up for my community. I will continue to stand up for Calgary Elbow and advocate for a better deal for people who have not got even a portion of what they were deserved from DRP. I will advocate for flood mitigation, and I will continue to fight the worst public policy in PC history, the floodway buyout program. We must earn market access in Alberta by improving our environmental performance. We must focus on post-secondary education and entrepreneurship to diversify our economy. And with that, I look forward to a great discussion this evening. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Greg Clark. Alberta Party candidate speaker number 3, John Fletcher, Longrose.
Well, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Moderator, and my fellow candidates for being here, and I'd especially like to see such a large audience who are participating in this exercise for democracy, so thank you all. I'm going to talk a little bit about my background and then why I'm running. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself and what I bring to the table. I grew up in Edmonton. My father was transferred to Ontario, so I ended up going to McMaster University where I got an honors BA. But I did that through the regular officer training plan. So the Army paid my way through, and after 4 years I was commissioned in the regular Army. I served my country in Camp Petawawa and also Camp Elkarchi, always with the Field Army. I was accepted for an MBA at the University of Western Ontario, so I left the Army. And then I also, when I was at the University of Western Ontario, I went to law school and I became a lawyer. I was fortunate enough to meet a fellow by the name of Bill Howard, who ran the law firm of Howard, Dixie, Mack and Forsyth here, and so he brought me here as a lawyer. But initially I've always been a soldier. And when I got here, I went down and joined the Reserve Army and worked my way up to become the commander of the Calgary Highlanders, and then later to become the commander of all the Army Reserve in Alberta. So altogether, I have 25 years of service to my country as a soldier. At the same time, in the Reserve Army, I was the oil executive for Ranger Oil. A lot of you may remember, we were an international oil company. We were headquartered here in Calgary, and I was the vice president of legal. And during that time, I negotiated international oil and gas transactions in places such as Angola, Namibia, and also in Iraq. So I traveled extensively, and I have all that wealth of experience with the stock exchanges and in the stock markets. So I said I've been a lawyer for 35 years now, coming up. I'm still practicing. My background, I'm really a corporate securities lawyer, but at present I'm running a real estate lawyer, which is, in this market, has been quite good for me. Furthermore, I'm the chairman of the board of the Corps of Commissioners, and we have approximately 1,800 employees here in southern Alberta, and we're one of the largest not-for-profit organizations here. I'm on a leave of absence from that organization at present. Now, why am I running? I have to tell you that I've never run for office before, but when I started to see